joined us this afternoon for this important webinar that we're going to go through for the next 1.5 hours. This is the number 2 of the Ghana project of the SOCO series. And I think this is very, very particular and interesting because this whole SOCO process and the focus is to ensure there is a social cohesion in the Gulf of Guinea, and particularly looking at the issue at northern Ghana. The anchor for this process definitely lies with a lot of factors, but the local economy is very crucial to bring the people in this sector of the country together, to harness the potential there and to provide a peaceful atmosphere for them to continue with their economic activities. Indeed, if you look at the country, Ghana, there are clear 2 what I call locational disparities. Disparities in the sense that in spite of all the efforts that have been made since throughout our development journey, we still have serious disparities. And these disparities are a big risk in terms of our cohesion, in terms of our inclusiveness, and in terms of bringing all these processes together. And therefore, this afternoon, we're going to probe why these disparities and the glue to bring all these facets together, and that's the development of the local economy. Up to today, we still have the southern Ghana receiving about 80% of the total investment and new investment coming into the country. So practically just about 20% of that reaches the areas which we are dealing with. We still have disparities, even with infrastructure and facilities. And all these makes us very vulnerable and create all sorts of activities and situations which are undesirable, including a security risk. And therefore, this afternoon, my name is Kojo Esemensa Abrampa, the Director General of National Development Planning Commission, which is a partner in pursuit of this SOCO project and program. We're doing this together with the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization, and Rural Development, which is the lead for the SOCO project in Ghana, and also supported astutely by the World Bank, which has facilitated the process through their funding, technical support, and also all the new technical things that we can introduce to make this program sustainable. So this afternoon, we are back to the topic, local economic development, and using that tool for inclusive economic development, particularly in the northern part of the country. This is not new to the country. We've gone through this journey for so many periods and with so many ups and downs with respect to the implementation of this process. But we are very convinced through what we have arranged and through the journey that we've just started that this time around, we're going to make it. If we're going to make it, then we need to put it on the floor and have a continuous discourse as to how we can pick up the opportunities that are available and some of the risks that we can anticipate and some of the constraints that we might face and be able to bypass to provide the well-being for our people, to make them more inclusive and bring them together in this development pursuit. Again, we're doing all this to reach and be measured by how much we are contributing to the global development through the pursuit of the Sustainable Development Goals and the defined national goals, which includes economic development as a primary. This has become even more pertinent given the challenges that we are facing currently economically, and knowing very well that those who are vulnerable and those who are already below the poverty ladder are the most affected. How do we bring them in this new pursuit that we have initiated? This is our discussion this afternoon. And I've been prompted that we've been joined by the country director for the World Bank for Ghana, and that is Mr. Pierre Laporte. And therefore, I will yield to him to give us an opening remark to open this important webinar, and we'll be able to dialogue for the next 1 hour, 15 minutes. Thank you very much. You're welcome, Pierre.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kojo Mensah Abrampa, Director General of the NDPC. Thank you for your opening remarks, Dr. Kojo. Madam Marianne Pakpa, Chief Director of Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development colleagues and participants. Let me start by congratulating the entire team at the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development for the successful launch of the Ghana SOCO project in November 2022, and for starting the implementation in all the 48 project districts in the north of Ghana. It goes without saying that such an important milestone would not have been possible without the support and inputs from several key stakeholders within and outside government. So congratulations to you all, and I had the pleasure myself for being there up north for that launch. I also want to congratulate, obviously, the World Bank's Social Sustainability and Inclusion Global Practice, the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development, the National Development Planning Commission, the Northern Development Authority, and others for organizing this webinar series focused on coordinated and integrated development in Northern Ghana. Colleagues, I want today to underscore a few important points about the Ghana SOCO project and today's webinar. Firstly, as we all know, needs are surging across this Gulf of Guinea sub-region, where multiple crises converge. External pressures of conflict, climate change, and COVID-19, among others, are compounded by long-standing challenges of poverty, exclusion, and weak governance, all of which may breed marginalization and inequality. Thus, we need to work closely with each other to explore joint solutions to address these threats in a coordinated manner under this project. Secondly, as we all know, the northern regions of Ghana starkly lag behind the rest of the country on all development indicators. Northern rural areas lack access to critical infrastructure like roads, market access, electricity connection, access to public services, tribal ties between bordering communities, porous border controls, weak regional organized efforts, lack of a citizen understanding of the risk, and particularly the possibility of spillover, fragility, conflict, and violence from the Sahel sub-region in border areas, all raises insecurity and political instability concerns for the country. Colleagues, the World Bank is deeply committed to collaborating with the government of Ghana through the new country partnership framework to address spatial and other inequalities, improve socioeconomic and governance, to promote inclusive growth and poverty reduction. The Gulf of Guinea project, which is organizing today's webinar, is a specific example of targeting vulnerable communities in the north to proactively prevent the spread of conflict from the Sahel, reduce vulnerability to climate change, and strengthen local institutions. This is a $150 million financing for Ghana out of the total $450 million financing from the World Bank International Development Association for 4 countries. The Gulf of Guinea project recognizes the need for a multifaceted approach of investing in community-level infrastructure that effectively responds to local needs and improves local economic opportunities, youth inclusion, strengthening of local institutional capacity, digital innovations, and a regionally coordinated solution as vital to social cohesion and conflict prevention. The Ghana SOCO project also aims to operationalize the government's LED policy in northern Ghana with the objective to fully harness the economic potentials of the project districts for inclusive job creation, thereby contributing to the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. The SOCO project will support the development of the led public-private partnership platforms at the local government level to strengthen resilience of local economies and promote integrated development and the economic inclusion of these areas. The SOCO project will select a few districts initially with strong implementation readiness and prior lead experience to undertake more intensive lead approach to serve as a good model and proof of concept in operationalizing the national lead policy and practitioners manual. Colleagues, the SOCO project is also coordinating closely with other development partners, notably the UN, GIZ, USAID, UK FCDO, High Commission of Canada, Norwegian Embassy, the WFP, IOM, and other development partners to serve as a platform to foster multi-partner response and to enhance coordination and collaboration to avoid silos, maximize, finalize for development, financing for development, and create large-scale transformative impact in target districts in northern Ghana. The World Bank has also other programs aimed at addressing some of the diverse drivers of inequality and deprivation. In our pipeline, for instance, there are operations on youth employment and agriculture, which will target northern areas also. Going forward, we are further exploring a rural development engagement that will address a range of issues in northern Ghana, including water, agriculture, and road connectivity, among others. Colleagues acknowledge that the situation is becoming more difficult and fragmented, necessitating cooperation amongst partners and stakeholders, like most of you here today. Given this, the SOCO webinar series is a timely initiative to engage policymakers and development partners to discuss the lead policy and challenges and opportunities for operationalizing this policy to promote coordinated and inclusive local economic development and jobs in northern Ghana. We look forward to deepening our knowledge and dialogue with partners as we work together to develop solutions to build resilience and social cohesion. With this, let me end by expressing the World Bank's sincere appreciation to the webinar organizers and all our partners. Thank you very much. Back to you, Dr. Kujo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Country Director Pierre Olapo. And he's giving us all the things that we will need to begin this very important discussions and discourse. We know that there is a huge opportunity created in spite of the conflict, which he rightly described as multidimensional: economic, security, social, and others. But this huge investment, which we've just heard, and we heard at the opening, gives us the opportunity to take advantage in order to improve the lives of these people. And he's also mentioned very important tools and processes we can use, including digitalizing the processes for development, looking at the local opportunities, and also, more importantly, facilitating social cohesion through job creation, the development of infrastructure, including that of communication, and firmed it up with the public-private partnership processes, which is important for us to coordinate this whole development process that we have initiated. Thank you very much, Country Director, for this wonderful introduction. Just from that, let me say that we'll have just two speakers to continue with that, and we'll go to the panel discussion where we'll be able to introduce facets and other views coming from different panelists, and I will introduce them as they begin to speak, and then end it up with a closing remark by the Chief Director of the Ministry. So now I go to the first speaker, who is Mariam Nana Ama Amwa, who is the head of decentralization for Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development in Ghana. So Nana, just few remarks, and we'll look at our time. So maximum 5 minutes from your end, and then we'll move. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abrampa. and good afternoon to everybody. My name is Miriam, as Doc said, and I'm here to give you an overview of the National Local Economic Development Policy. First and foremost, a policy was developed in 2013. It started implementation in Ghana, and this policy was to give a guideline and framework to district assemblies to incorporate led activities and interventions in their medium-term development plans, as well as their annual work plans. This policy has been in existence for all this while, and the aim or the goal of the policy is to promote a conducive environment at the local level for sustained local business growth. Now, one would ask, how situated is it in the context of Ghana, LED? Let me start with the global context. This policy is really in sync with the SDGs, all the 17 SDGs, as well as the African Agenda 2063. They are really in sync into this policies. When you come to the national level, in fact, we have legal frameworks which are also strongly in line with this policy. Our own 1992 Constitution of Ghana is in sync with that. Then our Local Governance Act, Act 936. Then the Land Use and Spatial Act, Act 925. It's also in sync. All these legal framework empowers the district assemblies to mobilize the resources around them in order to promote their economies, their local economies. Now, going forward, one would ask, since 2013, what has been the situation and what are the challenges? The situation is that now every year, in fact, it's about a decade now. Every year, the assemblies are assessed on their performance. And it's under a program called the District Assemblies District Assemblies Common Fund Responsive Factor Grants. This assessments, we have some indicators that the districts are assessed. And these indicators, we have LED indicators in there. And so you can assume all the districts are assessed on their LED activities and interventions. By this, we've also guided the district to also come up with their plans, district plans, in that every district has its special nature or peculiarities that they have to respond to their priorities and needs, And so all of them have their district plans. Going forward, one would again ask, what are the challenges? Yes, the policy is being implemented. Now, as we speak, we are reviewing, but what are the challenges? Some of the challenges that we will speak is in leadership. Who really steer the policy, who mainstream the policy at the national level? You know, the interministerial collaboration, it's really a challenge sort of. Who leads the steering and implementation of the policy? It's a challenge. When you go down there, the assemblies and the private people who are into LEDs, it's like they are working in silos. At what point do they connect? It's a sort of a problem. Then also we'll talk about data. How well have we synchronized the data between the activities and interventions by the individuals, by the community people, by groups, by the government? How well have we synchronized them? It's also a challenge to some extent. So then also there is on clear cut, what approaches are we using? It's also a challenge as I speak. Now, what were the guiding principles when the policy was being developed? One, we were looking at the fact that it's not a one size fits for all. An assembly at the southern zone, possibly their national resources will be different from those in the northern parts. For instance, at the southern parts, assemblies are into salt production because they are closer to the coast. Then when you go up north there, possibly you see assemblies going into animal farming and all that, so it's peculiar. 2, leadership and change management. Who leads what I was talking about it in the challenge stage? Who leads? Then commitment. We need the commitment of all stakeholders, being it private, being it community groups, being it the government. We need commitment from all sectors in order to make or see LUD strive in the country. Now we touch on the public-private partnership. To what extent do the assemblies connect with the private people in that area? It's also a guideline. Then the policy seeks to promote the concept of gender equality, equity, and inclusiveness. Yes, everybody, irrespective of your status, your class, or wherever, where you find yourself, you should be included in the led activities. Then we are talking of innovation. Innovation here, we are saying assemblies should adapt the ICT in improving the lives of their people and their level. Then also the informal sector. The informal sector, how well do we organize them in order to regulate their led activities? Assemblies should take charge of that. Then the last one is on territorial planning. When you are into LUD activities, you shouldn't see your jurisdiction as the end. You should extend your marketing. You should be able to sell whatever you produce as far as LUD activities and interventions are concerned to the other assemblies. There should be an interministerial marketing and all that. Now, talking of the objectives of the policy, the objectives here is to ensure effective led coordination at all levels, and also to strengthen capacities. Then also the administrative bit comes in.
May I try to run through quickly?
Yes, please.
Because we're already at the end of the time.
Okay, to facilitate access, to support access, and also support to training and entrepreneurial skills development. Now, how well is it in sync with the SOCO project? It is in sync because, as I said earlier, the overall goal is to promote a conducive environment and MMDA level sustained local economic growth, and which is perfectly in sync with SOCO aim is to proactively prevent the spread of conflicts from the Sahel, reduce vulnerability to climate change, as well as strengthen local institutions, economic opportunities, and public trust. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marianne, for the very, very succinct and clear presentation of what the policy of LAD is in terms of Ghana. And we realize that, yes, it's in sync with our statutes. It's in sync with the whole decentralization process in the country. It's also in sync with this project of SOCO, which is focusing on the northern part of the country, which indicates that in terms of the ambience of the LAD process, we can implement. And we're happy to hear that. And there is also the commitment, as you've indicated, whether expected already there from the central point, the central government, and also with the institutions at the local level. The private sector, you mentioned that. And this time around, we hope to reach them and bring them in and be part of the process. Thank you very much, Maria. Now we go into the next speaker, and that's Mr. Ashutosh. And Ashutosh has been, and he is the team leader for this project, SOCO. So Ashutosh, you also have 5 minutes to interact with us and bring us to know the relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kojo. So I'm representing my Ghana SOCO team, both from the bank side and the government side. So for those who don't know much about the SOCO project, and I think Pierre actually gave a basic overview at the start of this project is focusing on proactively preventing the spread of conflict from Sahel, reduce vulnerabilities to climate change, and also strengthen local institutions, economic opportunities, and public trust. And as you know, Pierre mentioned earlier, it's a total $450 million investment across the 4 countries in the region. And in Ghana, the financing is $150 million. Implementation agency is Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization, and Rural Development. And the project was approved on March 31st. It became effective as well as it was launched in November last year. And the implementation is currently now has started in all the 48 districts in the north. Next slide, please. In the project, one of the major components of this project is on the local economic development, which is around $22.5 million project, which gives us a very good opportunity to operationalize the LED policy through a more intensive approach. Next slide, please. So I want to focus on 2 things in this slide. One, SOCO can act as a conduit for operationalizing this policy because of 2 major reasons. Number one, SOCO over a period of last 6 months to 8 months has been putting a lot of effort in building a multi-sectoral, multi-partner collaboration platform, promote integrated development in Northern Ghana. In this regard, we are collaborating very closely with Northern Development Authority. There are a lot of partnerships in which we're looking for building stronger partnerships with development partners, you know, including UN, GIZ, USAID, and several others, which are actually on the slide right now. And we had several discussions and on these. So we look forward to have a more coordinated approach with all the development partners so that we can work at scale and use this project as a platform so that we can converge our efforts together. The SOCO project is also supporting a very comprehensive scoping study, which is led by NDPC right now. And this basically is done in coordination with different ministries as well as with different development partners. And it helps us to understand where we are at the moment in terms of data, in terms of issues, priorities across North. And this will help us also inform and strengthen the coordinated approach in North. We're also building a digital knowledge platform, and this series also gives us a very good opportunity to do dialogue with different stakeholders and policymakers. So overall, we're trying to focus on building an ecosystem through which we can actually work at scale and in a collaborative manner. And secondly, SOCO covers around 80% of the districts in the Northern Ghana. And so this also gives us a scale in terms of reaching out most of the vulnerable communities in the Northern Ghana. So given the ecosystem approach and scale, we think that SOCO through this collaborative platform could act as a very good conduit for operationalizing this local economic development policy on the ground. Next slide, please. So in terms of operationalizing the policy, and we learned from Miriam about the basic overview of the policy. The policy has been in existence from 2020. I think the main issue is now how do we operationalize on the ground and how do we operationalize it well and in a very coordinated manner. So in that regard, with the government, with the Ministry of Local Government, SOCO project is going to pilot an intensive LED approach in select MMDAs to serve as a good model proof of concept for operationalizing this policy. So the project is going to look at districts which are high performing, which have the capacity, willingness to look for more transformative approach for this type of economic development process. And SOCO project will initially work with those districts. And there will be 3 major pillars. One is to create more enabling environment for coordination of LED at the district level. So there are a lot of already initiatives happening in the districts. So it just helps to coordinate and bring them together so that there could be bigger scale could be created and better coordination and use of resources could be done. And under that, there will be a lot of capacity building at the local government level and building of public-private partnership platforms. And the second one pillar is where support will be provided for the last mile service delivery. Again, this will be done in collaborative manner, working with business advisory centers and leveraging existing government, World Bank, development partner, other programs. So not working in silos, but building on what exists and actually complementing that. And lastly, use of digital solutions, measuring impact and knowledge and sharing, so that this could be then scaled up across Northern Ghana. And there will be use of technical assistance partners and also collaboration with development partners on this agenda. So I would stop here. Back to you, DG.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh. Thank you very much. So now we have an idea of what this whole project is about and how it's going to carry this local economic development approach. As is indicated, it's create an enabling environment for them to function, for the LED to function, whilst linking up with the municipalities, metropolitan and district assemblies, working in partnership with development partners who are already on the ground and who intend to also undertake certain projects. And the point here is effective coordination, as he mentioned. And finally, taking advantage of the new thinking, the new technique, digital solutions, and also coming up with a means of deriving and improving the data management process and sharing, as we're doing today, what we are learning to improve the situation and how we can even scale it up to the other areas of the country, which are also challenged when it comes to the local economic development pursuit. Thank you very much, Ashutosh, for this enlightening knowledge that you've shared with us on the project. Now we go to the next phase, where we're going to take people who have gone through this process and have experienced the knowledge and the skills to be able to share with us their knowledge and how we can proceed and learn from them in this new pursuit that we are undertaking in the northern part of the country. I will introduce them as I also invite them to speak with us. We have, I think first on the ticket, Dr. Kojo Ohene-Safo. And he is an LED consultant. He's worked extensively in urban governance, urban management with local government. He's worked in the area of housing and housing finance. And given all this, he also facilitated the development of the concept and the policy review of the LED process in the country. So we have Dr. Ohene-Safo. And let me put this straight to him. Dr. Ohene-Safo, we've gone through the process several times. We've attempted LED processes, either at the local level or on the national scale, and come out with a policy to direct us. There are still a lot of skepticism because we've gone this path and we couldn't make it. We had an LED policy which had been there since 2013, as Mariam shared with us. And we are going through a review, and it's still registered that it's one of the weakest areas of our district assemblies. Having gone through all the corners of the country, evaluated and helped us in reviewing this policy, what will you share with us and give us confidence that this time round, we'll be able to make it in the northern part of the country to change life, to set an economy which will be important for our development pursuit? So Dr. Safo, if you are there, Dr. Ohene-Safo.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Doc. And I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can.
Sure. All right, just quickly, because there are quite a lot of us on the panel. So throughout the review of the previous policy,
you can speak for
Marian
6 minutes. You can speak for 6
Sure.
minutes. 6 minutes.
Sure. Marian has touched on, in broad strokes, the key things that afflicted the previous policy, for which remedies were being sought in this new policy. But I want to touch on some specific things for which provisions have been made, are being made, and should be made for ensuring that this new policy will be sustained, at least in its implementation, and will achieve the results that are critical. You can look at it from both the market side and then from the supply side and then the demand side in terms of policy and implementation capacity. On the supply side, one of the things we found was a varied reflection of awareness and familiarity with the policy itself, the previous policy, across the assemblies that were surveyed. there was asymmetry of information within the assemblies. Planning officers were the best informed, and then of course the BAC officers, which is the business advisory centers, who at the time were working under the Rural Enterprise Project, which was being run by the former NBSSI. They were the best informed. Other actors in the assembly structures were not so much informed and familiar with the policy and its expectations, as well as the manual for actually implementing. In that regard, also the perspectives of the assembly actors, you could see it was skewed towards more revenue generation for the assembly and not enhancing the economic outcomes for households, individuals, that would ultimately have benefited the assembly. So the assemblies that undertook any support, or majority of the assemblies that undertook support for LED activities, at the back of the mind, the motive was driven, or the motive was more for enabling them to raise revenue from these actors who were being supported through this initiative. The third thing was also sometimes the misalignment between the BAC, the Business Advisory Center operators, and the Assembly's own perspective. And because the BACs had direct funds from the Rural Enterprise Project, for example, this misalignment was intensified. I mean, the disagreements between them, the directions to be taken, the parties to be supported, the work areas or productive work areas that should be supported and so on, there tended to be some disagreements on that. Then the last thing, which is something that needs critical look at, is attrition. The attrition of staff at the assembly level. Rapid changes or frequent changes by the local government service tended to pull away very good officers who had started some good initiatives in new places and planted in new other places where those LED initiatives did not resonate, and therefore they had a higher hill to climb. On the demand side, you can look at the operators, the LED operators themselves, and some of the things that we observed was the assumption of entrepreneurial capacity or entrepreneurial skill vis-a-vis a functional economic ability. Because for entrepreneurs, it's also about the ability to assess a certain risk and to be able to integrate that into the whole production cycle. The other was also issues about markets, availability of markets, knowledge of the markets where they were and so on. And the absence of interlocutors for these markets. Doc, you recall that during the review, I even engaged you, we had a discussion about how KLM was engaging, this cooperative, women's cooperative, I think it's from Tanzania, where they had this dedicated market to support their work. On that score, it was difficult for quite a number of the actors in that space, the economic operators, to be able to identify tangible, productive markets that would enable their goods to go. The last thing was also about quality of production, quality and the ability to ensure quality of whether it was a service that was being delivered or quality of a product that was being delivered. There was not a very comprehensive quality assurance regime to enable the operators themselves to assure themselves of the quality to meet market expectations. These are just a sample of the issues that were confronted. If you look into the new policy and the manual that's been developed alongside, some of these elements have been addressed in how to do that. But yet there's still further work to be done. One of the things that came out from the policy review that is being attempted to be addressed in this policy, for example, is this whole issue of collaboration and coordination. The mechanics of collaboration and coordination are crucial. We can't assume that people understand what collaboration is. We can't assume that they understand what coordination is. Because we have different aspects of the ecosystem. And so you could find the assembly, for example, assembly actors who would think that collaboration means providing information, and that is adequate. Whereas the expectation of the operators, the LED operators and actors, would be collaboration requiring much more than just being informed of some situation, but being engaged in decision making. So the mechanics of coordination and collaboration need to be articulated properly. You need to have a common understanding. So we know that when we are moving in a particular direction, we have the same expectations and not this asymmetry that we have. And that requires continuous engagement, training, and so on and so forth. But to also highlight that there were some, indeed, visible fruits of good LED practice that also needs to be highlighted. But it also points out the absence of a platform for highlighting good practices, which is something that is very important. I mean, following on our policy review, however, I must admit that Central Region began to hold fairs. That was pulling all the assemblies under the RCC to bring, together with these economic actors and create opportunities for marketing and so on. So that is something that needs to be commended. But there has to be opportunities that allow for the showcasing of good practices in LED. And it's important that the actors, regardless of where they stand, are aware of this and are able to participate in them. Let me stop here and so that we can get others to also join in. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ohene Safo. A good assurance that, yes, there were problems related to the governance aspect of LED, problems related to the demand aspect, particularly the entrepreneurial skills and capacity to be able to turn the business processes. And then finally, the challenge of marketing. But you have assured us that going forward, yes, the policy has been reviewed, taking into consideration some of these key things that you mentioned, but highlighted the issue of collaboration and coordination among the institutions, among the partners to get this going. And then coming out with visible examples. I am sure SOCO noted that. That is why there's a lot of emphasis on knowledge and sharing and dissemination and picking up the lessons. And this is very, very important going forward. Thank you very much for this enlightenment and bringing it to us in terms of what we can do and move forward. Now, let me go straight to Dr. James Kwame Mensah. And this is a senior lecturer from the Department of Public Administration and Health Services Management. And he's done at the University of Ghana Business School. And he's done a lot and published a lot related to enterprises, businesses, livelihood, particularly in the locational element that we're talking about in spaces, in the informal sector, forward settlement, and also in urban areas. And so I will just take it straight to him, Dr. Mensah. Given what Dr. Ohene Safo said, and some of these challenges, and your experience, are we on the right path? We have fixed the policy, we have fixed the governance environment, we are fixing the issue of collaboration and partnership way between the private sector and the public sector and all the development partners. Are we on the right path as we journey through the SOCO situation in the northern part of the country? Is the environment different? Or given what we have done, we'll be able to take it up conceptually and also practically?
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you.
Doc, you have 5 minutes for that. 5 minutes for that.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you to see Dr. Ohene Safo here after 3 years of working together on the national led policy. I think that the time has come for us to push the agenda forward, because it appears like the top-down approach that we thought was going to trickle down seems not to be achieving the results that we are looking for, especially local development in terms of participation and ownership of the process. So we need the local people to acting out the leadership issues, because leadership was also found as one of the main challenges of local economic development in Ghana. So for me, in moving forward, what I think we need to do is to critically assess our environment. Every environment is different. And if you look at the northern sector, farming dominates. Farming dominates and small businesses. So for me, it is important that moving forward, we need to create the market. It appears like most popular markets, most big markets are in southern Ghana. So why can't we do similar thing in northern Ghana so that it will begin to shift such kind of investments, such kind of businesses to that area? I also think that the reason why most of the market and most of the big businesses are in southern Ghana is as a result of infrastructure. If you compare, you will see that the northern sector lacks infrastructure compared to the southern sector. So therefore, it is imperative for both MMDAs and the central government to concentrate on infrastructure development in the northern sector. That will be a big tool and a big incentive to move investment, to move businesses to that sector. And this ties in with the issue of attracting investors to the sector. So for me, I think that we should be able to create the kind of free zones that we have in southern Ghana, also in northern Ghana, as a way of giving incentives, which should be giving more incentive to investors who want to go to the northern part of the country. But all in all, I will emphasize on technology. Technology, because Dr. Ohene actually talked about quality of the product and packaging of the product. And this comes back to technology. As far back as 1987 or so, the Gratis Foundation was established to promote rural industrialization. And here, Gratis Foundation was tasked to look at your environment. What do you produce at your environment? So that they can produce simple equipment that can be manned by even lay persons. So I think that we should begin to move towards that dimension of supporting businesses at the local level to be able to package their product very well, use simple equipment. Because I sit here and wonder why we have been producing Gari for such a long time. All of a sudden, for us to sit down for China to now take over in the production of Gari, we have not been able to produce a lot of equipment or some equipment that will be able to process the Gari in quality manner and package it in such a way that this can go global. So for me, I think that we must play more emphasis on technology, and Gratis Foundation is an institution in Ghana here that can help us. Experience from SOCO, a Jesus Touch company, which was established under the PSI. One of the challenges of SOCO was technology, and most of the equipment that were used in SOCO were imported from China, equipment to uproot cassava. Meanwhile, cassava is not a staple something in China, so how do they make this equipment for you? And I was wondering why Gratis Foundation was left out of the scene, but I still understand. The issue is that finishing is a bit problematic with Gratis Foundation, but I think that we need to know that there are stages in the development of these technologies. There are people who do the crude aspect of it. We need to actually move ahead to get people who do the finishing aspect of whatever technology that Gratis Foundation will come up with. So in my estimation, I think that the environment is right now. We just need to push a bit further and we can go. But the last one to go, I want to emphasize on small businesses, informality. Our economy is full of informality. I wonder why we don't pay attention to our market women, people who sell around, because this is the nature of our economy. Let's start from there and partner with them and see how we can do it better. No, so I want to end here and then let my colleagues continue.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Mensah. And you've really helped us unearth some of the things that could serve as constraints as we begin on this, our journey. You brought up participation, leadership, you brought up the choice, focusing on agriculture and farming, the development of infrastructure, the necessary infrastructure to make the economy attractive for investment. And then also you've given us that serious emphasis on technology. Very, very important. We look at technology and then how we can also mobilize our informal sector to serve as an asset for us to make this economic journey. We thank you very much. That takes me straight to Humu Hani Adam. And this is a woman empowerment and inclusion advocate who has a lot of experiences in bringing people together and promoting gender equality, particularly in the North, which is our destination for this project. And so we tap from your experience, Humu. Dr. Mensah has brought about key factors on participation, on informality and how we can take advantage of that. And most importantly, how we can also mobilize ourselves and take advantage of the opportunities that have been created around us. With your experience, how do we bring in the informal sector? How do we bring them up to take advantage of this investment that Ashutosh mentioned, particularly our women, who also number up by far in the activities in the informal sector? And what is your experience, which we can tap into to make SOCO and LED SOCO a success? Humu, are you with us?
I think she's
No,
muted.
I'm not
She has
getting
to
a
mute
response.
herself.
Pardon me?
Hello, doctor. I'm here. My
Yes, did you
microphone
hear
will
what we
turn
said?
on.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
I heard what
So
you
we are
said.
all
Thank you
ears for
so
you
much for the
for 5
question.
minutes.
And okay, I'm happy to be here, and thanks so much for the opportunity. And I think Dr. James has said quite a number of things that has impressed us, and we are happy to hear. To the speakers who spoke earlier as well, they've said so much in line with this. And so in answering this question, I would like to firstly acknowledge the fact that the MMGs are the heart of every district. And so the development of every community starts with the MMGs. And I'm happy to say that we are happy as an institution and as an organization to have worked with them during the formation of our Women Economic Empowerment Group, which I'll delve a little bit into as I proceed with my presentation. And I want to say that I met Mr. Isifu, who is here to speak, during the formation of our Women Economic Empowerment Group in the East Mamprisi district, and he was highly impressed with our model. I want to believe that we can include these young women at the local economic level by first of all investing in them rightly. Investing in them in the sense that giving them the right set of skills they need and giving them the right set of equipment they need to make the relevant, make the best out of the skills we've given them. So for us as a Linear Foundation and under the Win of Project, what we do is that we train young women in industrial trades, where industrial trades looks at building and construction, infrastructure development, where we have welding and tiling. And I'm also happy to say that we work with Gratis. We have a lot of our young women at Gratis since our cohort 1 till today who are doing welding. And so Dr. James was right when he said that Gratis could help us. So it means that we are working with the right for this. So we're on a mission to training 2,000 young women in industrial trades, like I mentioned, that are perceived to be male-dominated in Northern Ghana. So for the past decades, this particular market has been left for the men to dominate. And at that, just sidelining the women. And at the end of the day, all the women are asked to do is to go into the normal tailoring and the hairdressing spotted all around. So when these projects come in, we don't have the participation of the women. Now, I want to remind us that women and girls are more vulnerable in the case of a spillover of conflict. So that they should be given the right skills and the right tools. And that is what we do here at Alinea Foundation. So the young women are taking two months training and attached for 1 month. We attach some of our young women with NETCO, and we also attach with Ghana Water and other private institutions as well to ensure that they get the relevant skills. Now we top them up with some empowerment sessions to ensure that they are able to fit well in the market, which is male dominated. So we build their confidence, we give them a bit of leadership training. And just quite recently on the 14th, we held the first ever annual general meeting of women artisans in Northern Ghana from 22 districts across all 5 regions. So we believe that in order to strengthen the resilience of this local economy and also include the participation of women, we need to train them with the right skills and give them the right tools they need to facilitate and also contribute to the local economic development. Now, another thing we look at is putting together resilient and innovative systems to ensure that these women are ready for today and tomorrow, which is the future, in the event of any issue or conflict. So here we have a very interesting model, which the SOCO team that visited our office was very impressed with. We have the We Make facet, where we talk about the young women ensuring that they lobby through the MMDAs and other organizations available to be able to get contracts. We've also put down a facet, which is called the We Say facet, where we tend to promote inclusive economic management. Now, not every district we operate in would have banks. And I want to emphasize that we are on a mission to training these 2,000 young women across all 55 districts in Northern Ghana. So far we've trained from all 55 districts in Northern Ghana, and we're on a journey to forming the Women Economic Empowerment Group in all the 55 districts. So far we've formed 22 Women Economic Empowerment Groups, and later this year, we intend to form all 55. So I'm happy to say that SOCO would have to even pick the district they would work with if we happen to work together, which we hope we do. Now, Dr. James also mentioned technology as well. One thing in this part of the world is that we've left technology out of everything we do. So we begin to just feed what skills we have and what knowledge we have just to our location, which makes it very difficult for us to break the boundaries and get the southern parts of the world and even the international world to get to appreciate what we have. Now, under our model, we have what we call the We Train, where some of our young women have already participated in web development trainings to ensure that they have a bit of presence online. So the world can know that women in Northern Ghana have left the kitchen, have left the hairdressing salons, and they are now into industrial trades. And as that, breaking the gender stereotypes and also promoting equality. Now, we're also happy to say that we are working so hard to ensure that we get some of our women to lead on the trade associations of artisans we have in this part of the world, and at large at the national level as well. We are also working closely with them to ensure that they form sustainable social support fund, so that in the absence of our project or in the absence of SOCO, the young women can still forge ahead. And in the event that there's any conflict spillover, they would have something to fall on. Now, the third point I want to make is that we want to encourage that we set up policies that foster. Okay, Doc, I'm doing that. The third point I want to touch on is to ensure that we talk about policies that foster inclusion. And if my memory serves me right, during our meeting, our first meeting at Katsina Nankana District Assembly, the presenter mentioned that 40% of the workforce quota is supposed to be women, which made us very happy. So it means that the women we are training are actually going to get some more work to do, even though they are already doing some more work. Now, I also want to add that our model is all inclusive because we train young women from deprived communities, and we also have a number of young women living with disabilities who were recruited based on purpose, just to ensure that we include them. We also have young mothers at our trainings, and we have been able to successfully pull back a number of young women who had migrated from the north to the south to engage in Kaya. So I want to emphasize that there is the need we make available the space for young women in trades that are perceived to be for men. And I must add that in what the earlier speakers said, we are all looking at infrastructure development as a way of ensuring that the North grows much better and we are no longer left behind. So I just want to reiterate that at Alinea Foundation and the We Not Project Ghana, through the support of Government of Canada, we have the young women here, and this is what we've done so far to support the inclusion of women, and we hope to do more with support from the SOCO project. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Humo. Thank you very much. And he's brought it to us squarely, and then that is to emphasize on infrastructure development, capacity development, targeting the girls and the women. Is brought about something which is very, very important. Financing, the means of financing this local economic development process must be looked at. The most importantly, the new dimension of bringing in technology to bear in some of these processes and inclusion. And this is very central to the objectives of SOCO. But let me come to you, technology. This has been mentioned several times, and this is important for us. Because a new dimension which we think is a game changer for this process that we've tried several times. So we come to Mr. Mortis Mang, who's an advisor to the GIZ on Digital Transformation Center in Ghana. And therefore, we definitely have a person who can respond to us and give us more ideas on the issue of technology and using that as a catalyst for the local economic development process that we are undertaking in the Northern Ghana. Do we have the necessary capacity? Do we have the people with the knowledge to take up this technology? And do we have local institutions that can absorb this new dimension that we have emphasized so much? Technology, digital process, and how we can use that to change and transform our economies. So we come to you, Mortis.
Thank you very much, and thanks a lot for having me. Also, for the other speakers, I'm very grateful for their input. It was very interesting, and I'm sure that we'll meet outside of this call again. Yes, thanks for the question. Maybe to start with, digital transformation is often perceived as a perfect solution for everything. And I have to add this little disclaimer here right at the start. It often is an amplifier. So it takes what you have, the strategies that are in place. If they are good, they get scaled. If they are not perfect, there's a high risk of amplifying those imperfect, those problems, especially when it comes, as we just heard, to exclusion of specific target groups. So especially in the North, I think that's a challenge that especially vulnerable members of society have more challenges in participating in the digital transformation or putting it to value. That being said, of course, there's a lot of potential, and I'm quite confident that those potentials will also contribute to the LED implementation, specifically when it comes to coordination and sharing relevant data with the different stakeholders. Of course, also increasing access to finance and business services. But let's start looking at it maybe from a digital governance perspective. Here we have e-governance, the more traditional approach that is common when using digital technology to smoothen internal processes in institutions or the communication between different agencies, as well as to provide more comprehensive service delivery. What I think is crucial here is to think about what are the next steps to that. So from going somewhere where we do things that we already are doing a bit more efficient, more cost efficient, and more comprehensive, digital government looks at leveraging digital transformation. And we've heard also that there was a lot of data already compiled, and you have a lot of formats that come into play when it comes to websites and fora now that generate data. How to leverage those technologies to identify and respond to citizens as well as businesses' particular needs, and take into consideration socioeconomic challenges and potentials for the specific regions that you have to implement the strategy in, and then design custom-made strategies based on evidence and even data. So in order to do that, there's a few principles I think that have to be followed. One is to be open in terms of transparency and accountability, have businesses, but also the civil society be aware of what is happening, where processes are currently, as well as inclusive. And I think that's one of the crucial points, inclusive to vulnerable groups like women, but also like the informal sector in general. To design the services that are provided and the strategies in place but also with civil society and vulnerable groups. And this is done through participation. I think here digital transformation can be the game changer that you mentioned, because most of communication nowadays, like us today, is happening online. And I think that can be leveraged also to increase participation from non-state actors and activate them also to become part of the decision making and to be more aware of the particular needs. Same goes for data. Sharing data, opening data up, but keeping it in-house helps also others to participate and follow up decisions that have been made to come in and contribute to them, or to use data and provide additional services to the public ones. Last but not least, inclusivity as the most crucial factor in that case requires to really work with the target groups. Here I would also stress women and the informal workers, to make sure that they can access business solutions, that they receive the relevant skills trainings that's both entrepreneurial as well as digital, according to their needs. And also here, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. I think this has to take into consideration the respective traits for the different districts, and work together with the associations in place, and not just train them in one workshop, but accompany them over time to make sure that what they learned and what skills need to be developed correspond with their speed of learning it or applying it. So I think this is a continuous process, but from my perspective and experience with the agencies in place, I think there's a very good basis to do so.
Thank you so much, Moses. This is fantastic. That is an assurance that yes, we can use technology to improve efficiency and be comprehensive in our process. We can use it to really manage our information, expand the participation of citizens, use it to target, and also be able to communicate effectively. And I like the conclusion, inclusivity. And we can apply technology to bring in those that we need to make LED successful in the northern part of our country. Very, very important. This has been mentioned several times, but you've made it very clear to us that yes, we can use it. And thank you very much for bringing us this far. I think this is an area we need to drill further, because a lot of prospects have been mentioned and we need to take it up. And then we go to the districts. The man who is going to manage this whole process, put together all of us, and that is the Chief Development Planning Officer in one of the districts. So we're going to Mr. Salifu Isifu, who is a District Chief Development Planning Officer for East Mamprusi Municipal Assembly in Gambaga. He's been working assiduously for all these years to reduce poverty in the district. We're saying that this time around, we're going to work together. We've heard from other practitioners. And let me ask Salifu. Salifu, how do you put all this together and let it manifest in your district? Is it feasible? Is it viable? Is it possible? Will it lead to efficiency? Will it lead to inclusion? Will LED work? Salifu.
Thank you very much, Doc, and good afternoon to all panelists. Yes, Doc, the question that you have put, yes, LED can work in the northern part of Ghana, especially in the focus SOCO zone. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
All right, thank you very much.
You can see me in northern.
Yes. The concept can work perfectly. Yes, over the years, we have done a lot of interventions, but our major program, as the other panelists have spoken about, has to do with the issues of sporadic interventions. We do not coordinate it. We do not plan very well. And when it comes to planning, I think, which is the basis of the beginning of the success of the program. In the past, what we did was a few people at the assembly level, talking about the BAC, talking about the planning units, the cooperatives, and agri, appeared to be those that the effort of doing local economic development was left to. The frontliners of the assemblies have not really looked serious in handling local economic development. But here is the case now. The issue is right at the front doors of
Hello, Salifu. Hello. I think we missed you. Hello.
I think he has got disconnected.
Yes, time is not on our side. So we'll go to Desmond. Are you around? Let's hear from you. Desmond. No, the last speaker is not around. So ladies and gentlemen, I think given our time too, we can have a very, very good summary here. Salifu was highlighting the issue of coordination, which is very, very important in the governance aspect of the local economic development. The relationship between and amongst the actors at the district level, the government actors, the private sector actors, the non-state actors who are also supposed to play a role. He also mentioned the infrastructure. This is vital. Infrastructure from the farms to the market, infrastructure for the processors to reach where they ought to be, the markets, the roads, the water, electricity. All these are crucial for them to operate. So that is what I'm sure Salifu was bringing about. But it's been a lesson to us going through all the 5 speakers that we need to look at the governance aspect. We need to anticipate some of the risks that are associated with the production process because of the challenges of infrastructure. So we need to think through that. For inclusiveness, we need to target first and then be able to reach out, particularly to the most vulnerable groups. And these have been emphasized by almost all the speakers, the girls, the women, and the young men. The other thing which is also coming up to us has to do with finance, and this is important. We talk about technology. It is the biggest opportunity we have, which we are bringing to add on to some of the efforts we've made in the past. How do you make use of this to ensure efficiency, effective communication, to use information and data to serve as a basic thing for our business? Developing the informal sector, reaching out citizens who have a key role to play to sustain this, and not only the technocrats. These are all issues which have come up. And I'm sure the most important thing is that there is confidence which have been created. Almost all of them have assured us that this can be done in the northern part of the country. There are new things which have come up. Review the policy, the use of technology, the inclusion aspect, enlightening of the women as Humo brought up, the young girls, the new skills which are being developed, the emphasis on the TVET in the general policy of the country, the emphasis on STEM, the science, technology, engineering, mathematics in terms of learning. How do we take advantage of this, particularly in the northern part of our country? All these are the environment within which we're going to operate. And that assurance has been given that, yes, we can make it and make a difference. Let me now go give the chance. We have very few minutes left, but we'll still give the chance to participants who would like to ask questions. I've received a lot of them in written form. We're going to take note of all of them and be able to learn from it in terms of going forward. But let us take one or two questions if there are, and comments especially, which will aid our process. Thank you. I'm not seeing any hand up yet. But I think that there was a question which came up related to institutions that are working in LED and how we're going to coordinate that. I am sure we can bring that to Dr. Ohene Safu, who has had experience with these institutions and the way they work. So how do we coordinate that? Oh, yes, I've received three hands up. So let me go to Lumumba Sansori, because I saw your question. Maybe you want to put it across. So Lumumba.
Yes, I have just a brief follow-up question on the top-down development approach. As to the extent, this SOCO project is going to ensure community ownership, self-help initiatives, and then especially with the assembly coming out with homegrown solutions, giving them that autonomy to have homegrown solutions to solve the necessary problems that they feel are affecting and can propel development. So I wanted to look at the extent to which autonomy will be given to the various assemblies, as to whether the SOCO is going to ensure that there is autonomy for the local bodies to come out with programs and projects and then implement them, but being supervised at the top there, so that there is that community ownership and then there is that bottom-up development approach.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Good question. I think Miriam can just make a statement around that. And when we have the chief director concluding, I'm sure she can also respond. But I know if following what Ashutosh introduced that from the beginning, this is one project which is seeing a lot of top-up process, bottom-up process, communities being facilitated and using the decentralized system in the country to be able to bring this project to fruition. Whatever is.
Oh.
So, Marian, can you make a comment on that? I cannot see Maria yet. Or we have Salifu. Yes, you are at the district level. And I'm sure the question is also coming to us. How are we going to make use of the bottom-up approach and responding to some of this? Okay. Salifu. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
So take advantage of this.
Thank you very much.
They are asking us
Yes.
no top down but bottom up. How do we do it? And you have the experience.
Yes, it's simple and then straightforward. The bottom-up approach that we have been applying it involves getting down directly to the people, because for anything that we download on the people from the top, normally it doesn't work. But it is good, and then it will favor us if we go directly, pick the issues directly from them, then together we program it. When we send it back for implementation, normally it becomes very easy for us to flow. And this is what we need to do. Only the caution there is that we need to be given free hand to handle that without interference from the political top hierarchy.
Yeah.
Yes, if we are given the free hand as technical people to meet the community people and pick it, the bottom-up approach is a very sacrosanct idea and is going to work for us. And at the end of the day, the results that we pick becomes very good. But caution that I will also raise here is that we normally need to give feedback. Over the years, we do not go back to give feedback to the community. And what that happens, it takes up arms against you whenever you take any intervention back to them.
Yeah.
Because you take the first one, it doesn't work. The second one, it doesn't work. You are coming with the third one.
Yeah.
They see it as the same, no value.
Yeah.
So this is what we need to really be cautious about, but we need to really work with them, because whatever we are sending to them is for them and not for us.
Thank you.
We are only facilitating it.
Thank you. This is the man from the ground. This is the man from the base. And he's telling us that we must listen to the people, the community, and the beneficiaries. And then most importantly, give a feedback, continuous information to them. This was also shared with us by the emphasis on technology and using that to be able to reach them in whatever it is. Thank you very much. We're still on the dot of 3:30 where we're supposed to end. And therefore, I would say that, yes, it's been a lot of your women and your men's job. And we're basically coming to the end, but we cannot leave without allowing the owner of this process, the Chief Director of Ministry of Local Government and Decentralization and Rural Development in Ghana. So I will now call on Ms. Mariam Papa, if she's ready, to give us a closing comment. But we'll take care of all the questions you brought up. I'm taking them, we are noting them, and this will be fruitful for all of us to use and also serve as a guide for the technical team and the good work that Ashutosh and the group are doing over there, guiding the process down here, and the project coordinator. So we are all ears for you to bring us home. Maria.
Hello, DG. Good afternoon to all.
Hey.
So the director is in another assignment out of Accra. So
okay.
She has actually asked me to be in her stead. So
yes.
I am here. I'm Samuel Setpasa, director responsible for local governance.
You're frozen. Hello, Sammy. Am I the only one missing you?
No, it has frozen. We cannot hear.
I'm frozen. Eh?
Oh.
Hello. So I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're not coming.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hello. NDPC.
Yes, we can hear you. Sammy, speak on.
Okay, thank you very much.
You have 2 minutes to take us home.
On behalf of the Minister for Local Government, Daniel Butri, MP for Okre, the management and the Chief Director, I seize this opportunity to thank everybody who has been part of this process to this end. The Country Director of the World Bank, the tax team leader for World Bank and his team, DG, various development partners, the Northern Development Authority, and all panelists, Dr. Ohinisafo. We thank you for this webinar and your contributions that has been made. It's suffice to note that the SOCO project is in sync, as a matter of fact, with the local economic development policy and its objectives. So the ministry, as the policyholder, appreciates the opportunity SOCO project presents for a more coordinated and integrated approach towards LED in the northern part of Ghana. So the takeaway is coordination and integrated approach to LED, bringing all sectors as per the Local Governance Act, intersector collaboration, the work of Ghana Enterprises Authority Agency, Ministry of Trade and Industry, GIPC, all the actors in the LED, bringing them together so that we can measure progress and moving away from brick and mortar, rather and to have productive urban and local communities. It is also our hope that once we ensure this coordination and the issue of innovation and digitalization is pursued, we will have a lot to achieve under the project, SOCO project. It is our hope also that the piloting of LED in some 3 districts will come handy so that we can have some rapid results on LED and then we can replicate in all the local authorities. On this note, I wish to express my gratitude to you all for attending and to the panelists for sharing your rich experiences. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And so to all colleagues and all the people who joined us this afternoon, it's been a good day. But think about it. Local economic development is possible and is feasible and definitely will contribute to the total development of the country and in the region. And so SOCO is on course. Let's work together, let's coordinate, let's be creative, innovative, so that we can bring respite to people who are vulnerable and are going through situations which are not acceptable by our own development standards. Good afternoon, and thank you very much. My name is Kojo Mensah Brampa, the Director General for National Development Planning Commission, Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the workshop.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good evening.
Indeed, great session, great facilitation. Very insightful. Thank you.
Great moderation, dog.